Well, mass shootings are overwhelmingly done by one demographic, young white men, leading many experts to wonder what it is about this group that's prone to do these violent acts. This, as the national conversation on who should and should not be able to get a gun, has come to the country's forefront. For more on this, we're joined live on the KCBS Ring Central Newsline by Leigh Richardson, a licensed professional counselor and founder at the Brain Performance Center. Hi, Leigh. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me.
So what do you think about this? I mean, is this an issue of mental illness or is it how overall we treat men in our society?
Well, I think it's a little bit of everything. I definitely think there's a mental health illness component. However, most of the male shooters have not been diagnosed with a mental health illness. Now, that may be because nobody's paid close enough attention to them to see that they have a problem. But I think there's that, and I think, we've been having shootings since 1999, and we've had time to do a little bit of analysis, and that analysis is showing us some good information. And that information is that these men, the profile of these men is, one, they've been around guns before. Whether they in a military or in a home, but they've been around guns and they're comfortable with guns. They have all been abused on some level, whether it's bullying, or whether it's domestic violence, whether it's just bad family relations. They all have that, and that contributes to, that's emotional trauma, and emotional trauma leads to mental illness. And I think the other thing that we've seen is that we can't deny they all have access to what they need, powerful assault rifles.
But Leigh, so, I'm thinking as you're talking, when we talk about girls and women, all those things, happen to young girls and women too, when we talk about trauma and abuse and that sort of thing. But is it linked to having some sort of outlet? What should we be giving boys and men to allow more for that emotional literacy? Would that make a difference?
Well, there's another piece that, thank you for asking that question, because there's another piece. These men have all that are the shooters, their profile, they're slightly inferior on the masculinity scale. Maybe they're underweight, maybe they're not as tall as their friends, but there's definitely a difference in the physical appearance, and that affects masculinity. And what they found is that they're looking for something to make them feel more masculine. And they've seen how powerful guns can be. And so it's almost a natural turn to. But you make a good point. Everybody's going to have emotional trauma in life. But it's what kind of support do you get? And what kind of red flags are there to look for?
I was just going to ask you that, Leigh. As you were talking, I was thinking, you study the brain. You're a professional counselor. I'm sure you've talked to quite a bit of people with a lot of anger and resentment. For the average person that sees or interacts with someone like that, what do they need to know? How can someone help?
Well, I think, look out for a couple of things. And one, who is somebody that's really not engaged? They don't engage on any level, and they don't play a sport, they don't play an instrument, they don't hang with people. When you see them at school, they'll be kind of socially isolated, they'll be kind of off by themselves. That's a red flag. The second thing is just general lack of interest. There are days that there are days I'm not interested in anything, but most of the time I'm interested in a lot of things that are going on. And so if you see this person, they're always socially isolating and they just don't seem to have any interest, any joy, that's a red flag. And there's nothing wrong with going up to somebody and saying, hey, it seems like you're having a bad day. Showing somebody that you care. Because I've read some research on some shooters that were they had it all planned out because somebody intervened and showed them some kindness and a little grace. They did not carry out the plan.
Yeah, that can definitely go a long way. Leigh, thanks so much for joining us today. That was Leigh Richardson. She's a licensed professional counselor, also founder of the Brain Performance Center.